It started with a hiss of scalding coffee and a scream that sliced through the quiet morning air. A crowd froze outside the diner on Maple Avenue. Two officers stood over an elderly woman, steam rising from the pavement between them. But before anyone could process what had just happened, the woman reached inside her soaked cardigan and flashed a badge that would change everything. Millersburg, Ohio. Population 7,403. The kind of place where the sound of church bells carried over the hills, and everyone still waved from their porches. For years, the town prided itself on being quiet, safe, predictable. But that safety had a price, the kind that hides beneath forced smiles and unspoken fear. Officer Clay Denton and Officer Mark Rutherford were local fixtures. Both had grown up here. Both coached the league. Both were known for keeping the streets in line. But behind the jokes and handshakes, stories lingered about temper, about power used a little too freely. Still, no one ever questioned them. Not in Millersburg. That would change on a frosty Friday morning in late November. Her name was Evelyn Shaw, 67 years old, retired, widow, former state investigator for the Department of Internal Affairs, a fact no one in Millersburg knew. She'd moved to town only 6 months earlier, quietly, renting a small house at the edge of Maple Creek Road. To most locals, she was Miss Evelyn, the polite older woman who fed stray cats and kept to herself. Every Friday, she sat in the same corner booth at Dot's Diner, a place with chrome stools, black coffee, and a jukebox that hadn't worked since 2003. She brought a small notebook and wrote as she watched the street. No one knew that notebook wasn't for poems or grocery lists. It was for names, dates, license plates. Evelyn had seen something, and she was documenting everything. At 7:42 a.m., a police SUV rolled up outside the diner. The two officers stepped in, Denton and Rutherford. The waitress, Lila, knew them. Everyone did. They ordered their usual, black coffee, eggs over easy. Then Denton spotted Evelyn in her corner booth, scribbling. "Writing about us again," he joked, loud enough for half the diner to hear. Evelyn looked up calmly. "Just noting the time," she said. Some people still believe in accuracy. Something in her tone, controlled, unimpressed, rubbed Denton raw. Rutherford smirked. "Try and defuse." "Come on, Clay. Leave the lady be." But Clay didn't. He stepped closer, coffee cup in hand. "What's in the notebook, ma'am?" "Observations," she said. "Observations about what?" "About how power behaves when it thinks no one's watching." The diner went silent. The only sound was the hiss of the coffee machine. And then, Clay tilted his cup. A stream of hot coffee splashed across the table, spattering her hands, staining her cardigan, scalding her skin. A gasp rippled through the room. "Oops," he said, smirking. "Clumsy me." Evelyn didn't scream. She didn't flinch. She simply reached into her pocket, pulled out a leather wallet, and opened it, revealing a silver badge marked Ohio State Investigative Unit, Internal Affairs. The diner froze. Clay's smirk vanished. "Sit down," Evelyn said evenly, her voice low but razor sharp. "You're being recorded." It took a second for anyone to understand. She tapped her cardigan collar, tiny lens blinking red, a body cam, hidden, recording everything. Lila, the waitress, whispered, "Oh my God!" Evelyn continued, "You're under preliminary observation by the state. You just assaulted a civilian and an officer of the law." Clay stammered, You can't be serious." "Try me." Then she stood, calm as ever, and walked out the door, steam still rising from her sleeve. Outside, frost glittered on car windshields. Evelyn's hand trembled only slightly as she started her sedan. But behind her calm exterior, her heart pounded, because she hadn't planned for it to happen that way. The sting on her hand was real, but what she had just uncovered was bigger than an assault. Evelyn had been investigating complaints filed quietly against the Millersburg PD. 5 incidents in 6 months. Unlawful stops, property seizures, verbal harassment. But what caught her attention was the pattern. Every complaint involved Denton or Rutherford. When Internal Affairs first got the reports, they'd been brushed aside. Small town. Not enough evidence. No press coverage. Evelyn, nearing retirement, volunteered to take it off the books. One last look. What she found was disturbing. Dash cam footage mysteriously missing. Body cam logs deleted. Witnesses intimidated into silence. She came to Millersburg undercover, posing as a widow, because she suspected something larger, a protection network within the department itself. Now, with a coffee burn on her wrist and a diner full of witnesses, she had the proof she needed. Or so she thought. By 9 a.m., the story was already mutating. The diner crowd had been warned by the officers. She provoked us. She's unstable. She's not who she says she is. Within an hour, rumors spread that Evelyn was a fake cop. By noon, her house was surrounded by cruisers. They said she'd impersonated law enforcement. They took her camera, her laptop, her notebooks, and they did it without a warrant. Evelyn sat handcuffed on her porch, the winter sun blinding her eyes. But even as they hauled her away, she smiled, a small, tired smile, because she had planned for this too. Inside her pocket was a micro SD card, a duplicate of everything. Enter Detective Noah Faulkner, 33, fresh from Columbus. Transferred to Millersburg a month earlier after his predecessor retired early. He wasn't part of the boys' club. He was observant, quiet, and dangerously honest. When he saw Evelyn's booking sheet, something didn't sit right. Why was a state officer being charged like a felon with no verification from Columbus? Why was the body cam footage from that morning already missing? He requested the case file. Denied. He asked a superior, Captain Leroy Baines. Drop it, Noah, the captain said. Woman's delusional. But Noah wasn't convinced. That night, he drove to the impound lot where Evelyn's car was held. He checked the trunk log. Unsealed. Tampered. Someone had already been inside. He called Columbus himself, and when he mentioned Evelyn Shaw's name, the line went silent. Then a woman's voice said, "Detective, walk away. You don't understand what she's doing there." Meanwhile, locked in a holding cell, Evelyn hummed a tune under her breath. Every step of her plan was unfolding, but not as smoothly as she'd hoped. For months, she'd been tracking a series of suspicious transactions between the Millersburg Police Benevolent Fund and a private security firm called Ridgeline Protective Services. On paper, it looked like routine consulting. But Ridgeline was a front, connected to a network of off-duty officers providing private protection to local businesses for cash. In other words, a protection racket wearing a badge. Evelyn had been closing in. The coffee incident had just accelerated everything. Captain Baines sat in his office that night, door locked, files spread across his desk. The problem was bigger than a coffee spill now. If Evelyn's recordings got out, they'd show months of corruption, extortion, evidence tampering, and abuse of power. Baines had kept his department's reputation intact for 20 years. He wasn't about to lose it to a retired investigator with a camera. He made a call. Take care of it. Two men nodded from the other end of the line. At 2:17 a.m., Evelyn's house was broken into. No lights, no sirens, no record. Whoever did it knew what they were looking for. But what they didn't know was that Evelyn had sent a package earlier that day to a P.O. box in Columbus. Recipient, Maya Reyes, an investigative journalist at the Columbus Ledger. Asterisk, asterisk. Inside, one letter, one USB drive, and a note. If anything happens to me, publish everything on this drive. Tell Detective Noah Faulkner to trust no one in uniform. By the next morning, a rumor was spreading online. A video clip, only 6 seconds long, showed a uniformed officer pouring coffee on an elderly woman. The caption, "Millersburg PD, this is your hero." It was grainy but clear enough to ignite a firestorm. The department called it fake. The town called it proof. By noon, reporters camped outside the station. By 2 p.m., state officials were demanding answers. And by 5 p.m., Evelyn was gone, released on bail by an anonymous sponsor. No one saw her leave. No one saw where she went. But that night, Detective Noah Faulkner found a note slipped under his door. It read, "They're coming for you next. Meet me at the old train yard." Midnight. The air was cold, wet, and metallic. Rusting freight cars loomed like shadows. Noah parked under a dead streetlight, hand on his gun. Footsteps approached. "Detective," a woman's voice said. Low, measured, familiar. Evelyn stepped from the dark in a gray coat, had pulled low. She handed him a folder, thick, worn, full of names. Every officer connected to Ridgeline. Bank statements, transfers, cover-ups. He flipped through it. "Why me?" "Because you're still clean." A train horn blared in the distance. She looked past him. "They won't stop, Noah. Not until we're gone." Then a beam of light cut through the fog. Headlights from a black SUV. Tires screeched. Doors slammed. Evelyn grabbed his arm. "Run." They darted between freight cars, boots clanging on iron. Bullets snapped through the fog. Noah fired back once, twice, then dived behind a crate. Evelyn clutched her side, blood seeping through her coat. "Go!" she shouted. "Take the folder." "I'm not leaving you." She smiled weakly. "That's why I picked you." Another shot. Sparks exploded off a rail. Evelyn shoved the folder into his hands. "Deliver it to Reyes. Trust no one else." Then she pushed him toward the exit and turned back into the fog. When the sun rose, the train yard was empty, except for a trail of blood and a burned-out SUV. No body. No Evelyn. The Millers Board PD issued a statement. An incident occurred involving a mentally unstable suspect. The matter is resolved. But Noah knew the truth was just beginning to surface. He opened the folder on his desk. Inside were names, dozens of them, officers from towns across the state, all linked to the same company, the same money trail, the same corruption. And one more thing, a photo. It was Evelyn, years younger, standing beside a man in uniform. The caption, Agent Evelyn Shaw and Special Agent Thomas Reyes, State Internal Affairs Division. Maya Reyes' father. That night, Noah drove to Columbus to find Maya. But when he arrived at her apartment, the door was open, laptop still on, coffee still warm, and on the floor, a single envelope with his name written in red ink. He tore it open. Inside was a single sentence, handwritten in Evelyn's familiar cursive. "If you're reading this, they've already infiltrated Internal Affairs." Noah looked up at the dark hallway. From somewhere in the shadows, a faint click echoed, the unmistakable sound of the safety being switched off. The sound was small, but it froze Detective Noah Faulkner's blood cold. A metallic click, the whisper of death preparing to speak. He didn't turn around. Not immediately. The apartment around him was quiet. Too quiet. The air smelled of burnt coffee and printer ink. Maya Reyes' laptop hummed faintly on the desk, its screen still glowing with an open document. Evelyn Shaw, missing or silenced? He slowly raised his hands. "If you're here to shoot," he said quietly, "you should know the cameras in this building have been running since midnight." A pause. Then a voice, low and female, answered from behind him. "I know," she said. "I installed them." He turned, and there she was, Maya Reyes, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, exhaustion etched beneath her eyes. A small pistol trembled slightly in her hand. "You're Noah Faulkner," she said. "Evelyn told me to find you." They sat across from each other in the dim apartment, light from the street flickering against the walls. Maya hadn't slept in days. Her apartment was a war zone of documents. Photographs, pay stubs, police rosters, maps connected by red string. A journalist's obsession. Or maybe a survivor's. "She sent me the files," Maya said, scrolling through her laptop. But the drive was wiped remotely. The moment I opened it, the data self-erased. "Meaning they knew she sent it?" Noah muttered. Maya nodded, meaning she was right. There's someone inside Internal Affairs feeding them everything. They leaned over her desk, reviewing what little was left. Fragments of scanned documents, timestamps, and one still image from Evelyn's dash cam. It showed two men, Denton and Rutherford, meeting behind a gas station with a third figure. Face blurred, but the license plate was visible. Ridgeline Protective Services. The same company at the center of Evelyn's case. Maya exhaled. She was close, Detective. Too close. The next morning, a call came in from Holmes County deputies. A silver sedan had been found submerged in a creek off Route 39. No driver, no body, just a shattered windshield and one glove in the passenger seat. The license plate matched Evelyn Shaw's. Noah arrived at the scene before dawn. Mist clung to the water's surface, the car's roof barely visible above the current. One of the deputies, a nervous young officer, said, "We ran the VIN. It's her car, sir, but there's something strange." He opened a small evidence bag. Inside was a second glove, clean, dry, and found on the creek bank. Noah stared at it. Someone staged this. He crouched near the water's edge, his flashlight sweeping across the mud. There, faint, almost erased, two sets of boot prints. One large, one small, both leading away from the wreckage, not toward it. He whispered, "She's alive?" That night, Noah returned to Maya's apartment with something in his coat pocket. The internal PD surveillance drive he copied before the captain locked him out of the system. He plugged it in. Hours of footage filled the screen. Routine traffic stops, patrol routes, nothing unusual until one timestamp caught his eye. 2:12 a.m., the night of Evelyn's break-in. The camera feed showed two masked men entering her home, rifling through drawers, then pausing when one of them found a photo on the mantel. He held it up to the camera by accident. The image was of Evelyn, smiling beside a little girl. Noah froze. "That's you," he said to Maya. She blinked. "What?" He zoomed in. The child in the photo was unmistakable, 7 years old, holding a toy police badge. Maya's voice cracked. I didn't know she kept that." "She didn't just work with your father," Noah said quietly. "She helped raise you." Maya sat on the floor, back against the wall, tears in her eyes. Her father, Thomas Reyes, had been Evelyn's partner in internal affairs 20 years earlier. He disappeared after investigating corruption in a neighboring county, officially ruled a suicide. But Evelyn never believed it. She said my father uncovered a network of dirty cops, a pay-for-protection ring, Maya whispered. He died before he could name them. Evelyn had spent the next 2 decades chasing that same network, and it had led her straight to Millersburg. Noah opened the folder Evelyn had given him. Pages of bank statements, transfers, and coded ledgers. At the bottom of one page, written in Evelyn's neat handwriting, were 3 letters circled in red. "BIT. What is that?" Maya asked. Noah frowned. "No idea. But it's everywhere. Every transaction, every name. Someone was signing it." By Monday morning, Noah was summoned by Captain Baines. "Sit down," Baines said, voice calm but cold. "You've been busy." "I'm following up on Evelyn Shaw's case," Noah replied. "Her case?" The captain smirked. "You mean the one that's closed?" "She's alive." Baines chuckled. "Detective, do you know what happens to people who chase ghosts?" Noah leaned forward. "Do you know what happens to departments that hide them?" For a moment, silence. Then Baines's mask cracked just enough to reveal irritation. "You're suspended, effective immediately." "On whose authority?" Baines smiled. "Internal Affairs. They sent a memo this morning." Noah's blood ran cold. Internal Affairs, the very division Evelyn had worked for, had now turned against him. That evening, while packing his desk, Noah noticed a small envelope slipped into his locker. No name, just an address scribbled on the front. Old Mill Storage, Unit 12. Noah drove there after dark. The storage facility sat on the outskirts of town. Half the lights out, wind howling through the chain-link fences. Unit 12 was unlocked. Inside, he found boxes of old case files, Evelyn's handwriting on every label. He crouched down, flipping through them. Traffic citations, police complaints, internal memos. Then, at the bottom of one box, a flash drive wrapped in masking tape. A note for Faulkner. "If I disappear, follow the money. Start with BIT." He pocketed it, then froze as headlights cut through the cracks in the door. Engines, 3 of them. Voices outside. Boots crunching gravel. "Lock the exits," someone ordered. Noah doused a light and crouched behind a shelf. The lock rattled. Metal screeched. They were cutting their way in. He slipped out the back window. Crawling under the fence, his flashlight swept past. He didn't look back until he reached his car and saw smoke rising from Unit 12. They'd set it on fire. Back at Maya's apartment, Noah handed her the flash drive. It was encrypted, but she had software that could bypass most civilian locks. Hours passed. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. Then the drive opened. Inside were hundreds of files. Police payrolls, bank records, transfers marked consulting fees. Each one led to the same shell company, BIT Holdings, LLC, registered to an address in Columbus. But the company didn't exist. Its office building was abandoned, sold years earlier to a private contractor connected to Ridgeline. Maya whispered, "They're laundering money through Ridgeline using fake departments." And then, at the bottom of the directory, a single hidden file named winterseed.mp4. They clicked it. The footage was grainy, time-stamped from a year earlier. A dark room, a wooden table, 3 men in uniform, faces half-lit. One spoke. "Payments come in through Ridgeline. BIT signs off. We split the difference." Another asked, "What about the oversight committee?" The first man laughed. "They're bought, every one of them." Then the camera shifted slightly, and for a brief second, a fourth figure appeared in the corner. Evelyn Shaw. She was recording them. Maya covered her mouth. She's been inside this longer than anyone knew. Noah rewound the clip, froze the frame on the logo painted behind them, an insignia. Blue Integrity Task Force. The letters BIT. Evelyn's BIT wasn't a company. It was an internal corruption task force gone rogue. A secret unit created to police other officers, and now completely consumed by the very power it was meant to control. At 2:03 a.m., Noah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice whispered through static. "Detective Faulkner? Who is this?" "This is Evelyn." He nearly dropped the phone. "Where are you?" "I can't say. They're monitoring the lines." "Listen carefully. Maya's in danger. They know she has the files." "Who's after you?" "The people inside BIT. They control IA. They control everything." "Then let me help." She cut him off. "You already are. But listen, there's someone else. Someone who can expose all of it." "Who?" The line crackled. Then Thomas Reyes. Noah froze. "Maya's father? But he's not dead," Evelyn whispered. "He's been hiding, and he's the only one who can destroy BIT." The call ended. By dawn, they were on the road, Maya driving, Noah in the passenger seat with Evelyn's note in hand. Destination: an old address in Athens County, tied to Thomas Reyes's personnel file from the 1990s. The sun barely rose through gray clouds. The road wound into forest. Finally, they reached a remote cabin, boarded windows, a rusted truck out front. Maya stepped out, trembling. "Dad!" No answer. She pushed the door open. Inside, silence, dust, faded furniture. But on the kitchen table, a half-drunk cup of coffee, still warm. And beside it, a sealed envelope labeled, "To whoever finds this, trust no one wearing a badge." Noah picked it up. He's alive. He knew we were coming. From outside, an engine revved. A black SUV rolled into view, the same kind that had chased him at the train yard. Maya's breath caught. They found us. They ran out the back, cutting through the trees as gunfire shattered the windows. Noah led her down a slope to her creek bed, ducking behind fallen logs. Maya clutched the envelope to her chest. "We can't keep running forever." "We won't," he said. "We'll find your father. Then we take this public." From above, headlights swept through the trees, voices shouting commands. They kept moving until they reached a small bridge where an old blue pickup was parked, engine idling. A figure stepped out, face hidden beneath a hood. "Noah," the voice said softly. "Get in." He froze. "Evelyn." She nodded. "There's no time. They're 2 minutes behind." They jumped into the truck and sped off, gunfire echoing behind them. Hours later, they reached a warehouse outside Cincinnati. Evelyn led them through a side door into a dark office filled with maps and computer equipment. And there, sitting at a desk, back turned, was a man in his 50s, graying hair, tired eyes. He turned slowly. Maya gasped, "Dad." Thomas Reyes stood, his face pale with shock. He stepped forward, pulling her into an embrace. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted you involved." Tears streamed down her face. "You let me think you were dead." "I had to," he said. "After what happened with B. at T. If they knew I was alive, they'd come for you too." Evelyn watched them silently, her expression a mixture of relief and regret. Noah broke the moment. "Then help us bring them down." Thomas looked at him. "You don't understand. They're not just cops anymore. They're funded by the state. They've merged into something else." "Something else?" Evelyn asked. Thomas nodded grimly. "They're the new Oversight Division, the Integrity Bureau. They've gone national." Thomas opened a metal briefcase and pulled out a series of documents. Federal memos, classified reports. They're using Ridgeline as a money funnel. BIT is just one branch of a larger operation. Politicians, police chiefs, judges, they're all in on it. Evelyn whispered, "God help us." Thomas looked at his daughter. "I've been collecting evidence for years. But the moment I tried to release it, they faked my death." He handed Noah a small data chip. "This contains everything. Enough to dismantle the Bureau. But we need to decrypt it using an access key I don't have." "Who does?" Noah asked. Thomas hesitated, then said one name, Captain Leroy Baines. The same man who suspended Noah. As dawn broke, they prepared to move again, to find Baines, to retrieve the key, to expose everything. But before they could leave, the warehouse lights flickered. Then, all at once, the power cut out. Noah drew his weapon. "Stay close." From outside came the low rumble of engines, then the metallic slam of a dozen car doors. A voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "Detective Noah Faulkner, Maya Reyes, Evelyn Shaw, Thomas Reyes. You are surrounded by the Integrity Bureau. Step out with your hands raised." Thomas whispered, "They found us." Noah looked at Evelyn. "How?" She swallowed hard. "Someone tipped them off." Then her eyes widened, realization dawning too late. Maya's phone lay on the table, still glowing with an incoming notification. Tracking signal active. Evelyn whispered. They traced her. The sound of footsteps close in. Floodlights lit the warehouse walls. Voices shouted. And just before the first shot rang out, Thomas Reyes turned to his daughter and said, "If I don't make it, the key is hidden in the place where the coffee burned." Maya froze. "What?" Gunfire erupted. Glass shattered. Smoke filled the room. Noah grabbed her hand, pulling her toward a side exit as Evelyn covered them. Through the chaos, Thomas's voice echoed one last time. "Run!" The screen fades to black. The first gunshot tore through the silence like lightning splitting sky. Noah didn't look back. He grabbed Maya by the arm and dragged her toward the loading dock. Smoke rolled through the warehouse as bullets punched holes through glass and steel. "Down!" Evelyn shouted, firing once, twice, calculated, precise. Thomas ducked behind a crate, blood seeping from a graze on his arm. Floodlights flooded the lot outside. The Integrity Bureau moved like a military unit. Black SUVs, unmarked vans, armed agents in tactical vests marked only with a blue triangle insignia. These weren't cops anymore. They were an army. "Move!" Evelyn yelled. Noah slammed the side door open. They bolted into the night, headlights blinding them as engines roared behind. A helicopter swept overhead, its spotlights slicing across the ground like a blade. They barely reached the tree line before the warehouse erupted, flames licking through the roof. Thomas gasped. "The files. They're gone," Evelyn said grimly. "They torched it before we could." But inside her coat pocket, one last microchip, the data Thomas had handed Noah moments before the raid, still pulsed faintly with light. She whispered, "They didn't get everything." They drove for hours in silence, following back roads through farmland and empty towns. Finally, they stopped an abandoned motel near the Kentucky border. Its neon sign half-lit, buzzing softly. Vacancy. Evelyn checked the perimeter twice. No signal. We're clear. Inside, the room smelled of mold and dust. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, trembling, clutching her father's blood-stained sleeve. "He's losing blood," she said. Noah tore the bedsheet into strips, wrapping Thomas's arm tightly. "We need a hospital." Thomas shook his head. "No hospitals. They're watching all public systems. Facial recognition will be flagged the moment we walk in." Evelyn nodded. "He's right." Maya looked between them, voice cracking. "How do we fight something that controls everything?" Evelyn exhaled. "By finding the one thing they can't control, truth." But the truth, as they were about to learn, was buried under decades of rot. Hours later, while Thomas rested, Evelyn and Noah studied the data chip under a flickering lamp. Encrypted files, hundreds of them, each labeled with city names, officer IDs, timestamps. Everyone tied the Integrity Bureau's oversight projects. Noah frowned. They had been embedding agents inside departments across the state, under the guise of reform. Evelyn nodded, and using Ridgeline to pay them off. Then Maya, who had been staring blankly at the wall, suddenly spoke, the place where the coffee burned. Noah turned. "What?" "My father said it before the shooting. The key is hidden in the place where the coffee burned." Evelyn's expression hardened. "He meant Dot's diner." Maya nodded slowly. "That's where everything started." It was almost dawn when they pulled into Millersburg again. The town still quiet, the diner's neon sign glowing faintly in the mist. Noah's heart raced as they stepped inside. The booths were empty, the clock still ticking above the counter. Lila, the waitress, looked up from behind the register, eyes wide in disbelief. "Evelyn," she whispered, "you're supposed to be dead." Evelyn smiled faintly. "That rumor's been useful." They sat in the same corner booth, the one where the hot coffee incident had happened. The wooden table had been replaced, but Evelyn's memory of the burn mark was precise. She pulled a small blade from her pocket, ran it along the seam under the counter. And there, tucked beneath a false panel, was a small metal capsule. Inside, a key card marked with the Integrity Bureau's insignia. Noah's voice was low. "The access key." Lila whispered, "You need to leave. They've been asking about you for days." But before they could respond, the diner door creaked open. Two men in gray suits stepped inside. Their eyes scanned the room. "Agents," Evelyn murmured. "Go. Now." They slipped out the back, tires screeching as the car sped away. The men looked at each other. Then one pulled out a phone. Target reacquired. Heading south. By nightfall, they reached an old municipal archive building, once used for county records, now abandoned. The key card slot was hidden behind a rusted elevator panel. Evelyn slid it in. A soft click echoed. A secret door opened. They descended into darkness, a cold underground chamber filled with file cabinets, dusty computers, and steel shelves lined with hard drives. Noah stared in awe. "What is this place?" "The Integrity Bureau's original data vault," Evelyn said, before they went federal. Thomas, pale but steady, moved between the shelves. "Every operation, every payout, every officer. It's all here." Maya turned on a monitor. Lines of data scrolled across the screen. Transaction codes, transfers, encrypted memos labeled confidential. Blue Watch program. Noah frowned. Blue Watch? Evelyn's face drained of color. "That's what they called it 20 years ago, when your father first started investigating them." Thomas nodded. "It was supposed to identify bad cops. Instead, they used it to recruit them." As they downloaded the files, a terminal beeped. Incoming transmission. Noah froze. Someone's accessing the same network remotely. Evelyn typed furiously. The screen flickered. A shadowy profile appeared. A man's voice came through the speakers, distorted but calm. "You shouldn't have come back, Evelyn." Her hands trembled. "Who is this?" The voice chuckled. "You already know. You taught me everything I know." She whispered, "Agent Wallace." Thomas stepped forward. Wallace was part of your old team. Evelyn nodded grimly. He was my protege. The voice continued. We tried to build something honest. You turned it into war. Now you'll drown in it. The line cut. Evelyn stared at the screen. Haunted. He's running the bureau now, she said softly. He's the one behind all this. Noah checked the download progress. 83%. Then, footsteps above. Heavy. Coordinated. They weren't alone. Backup drive. Evelyn ordered. Now! Thomas yanked the external disk from the terminal. It's not done yet. We don't have time. Maya clutched the drive to her chest. Got it. The ceiling cracked. Flashbangs rolled down the stairwell. Go, go, go! Noah shouted. They sprinted through a maintenance tunnel, coughing through smoke. Behind them, the vault erupted in flame, the Bureau's agents burning their own evidence. Outside, cold rain pelted the streets. The world smelled of smoke and betrayal. At a roadside motel miles away, Evelyn connected the external drive to her laptop. The screen flickered, corrupted data, fragmented video, but enough to reveal a single name over and over. Captain Leroy Baines. Dozens of memos signed by him. Transactions authorized. Payments routed through Ridgeline and BIT. Noah's jaw clenched. He's their bridge. Evelyn nodded. He's the one who made it all possible. Thomas leaned forward. Then he has the rest of the key. Maya whispered, We need to find him before they find us. They found Baines at a remote cabin in southern Ohio. The same retreat he claimed was for stress leave. When he opened the door and saw them, he didn't even pretend to be surprised. I was wondering when you'd come, he said calmly, sipping from a mug. Coffee. Noah's gun was steady. Put it down. Baines sighed. You still don't get it, Faulkner. You think you're fighting corruption. You're fighting survival. The Bureau is the system now. Evelyn stepped forward. You sold your badge. No, Baines said coldly. I bought freedom. You think justice pays? It doesn't. Power does. He smiled faintly. And you of all people should know that. Evelyn's voice broke. You were my partner once. He nodded. And you were my warning. Then, faster than anyone expected, he drew his weapon. A gunshot rang out. Baines staggered back, a red bloom spreading across his chest. Evelyn lowered her smoking pistol. And you were my mistake. He fell to the floor, gasping. Thomas grabbed the flash drive from his desk, the final encryption key attached to it. But before Baines died, he whispered one last sentence. You think you've won, but Wallace is coming. And he's not alone. That night, they sat in silence inside the car, rain hammering the windshield. Evelyn stared at the drive, her reflection flickering in the glass. 2 keys, she whispered. Mine and his. That's all we need to unlock the entire Bureau. Noah nodded. Then we take this public. Federal court. Press. Everything. But Thomas looked uneasy. Evelyn, what if Wallace built this whole thing just to expose you? She frowned. What are you saying? He's always been 2 steps ahead. What if the Bureau's corruption is bait, a controlled narrative to clean house and rebuild under his rule? Evelyn stared at him, speechless, because deep down, she knew it was possible. By dawn, they reached a small news station in Lexington. One of Maya's old contacts worked there, a producer named Helen. In a dark studio, Evelyn and Thomas loaded the drives into console. Screens filled with names, numbers, files, everything the Bureau had tried to bury. Helen whispered, If this airs, it'll blow the lid off the entire state. Good, Noah said. It's time. But as the broadcast began uploading, the studio lights flickered. Then the screen went black. A message appeared. Transmission intercepted. Property of the Integrity Bureau. Helen gasped. They're inside the network. Evelyn slammed the keyboard. Cut the connection. Too late. A new feed appeared on every monitor. Agent Wallace. Smiling. You've done well, he said. Now the world will see what happens when you challenge the new order. Then the screens fill with footage. But not their files. It was Dr. Video. Splice clips making Evelyn, Thomas, and Noah look like fugitives, murderers, terrorists. The Bureau had flipped the story. Within minutes, alerts flashed across every major news outlet. Former agents leaked classified data, wanted for treason. Maya's voice trembled. They turned us into the villains. Evelyn whispered, they always did. They barely escaped the station before armored vehicles surrounded it. Smoke grenades, sirens, helicopters overhead. As they fled into the woods, Evelyn clutched the drives tight against her chest. Her voice shook. If they control the narrative, truth won't save us anymore. Noah looked back at her. Then what will... She met his eyes. The only thing left, proof that can't be faked. Thomas frowned. What proof? Evelyn looked toward the east, where the dawn was breaking over the hills. Wallace's own confession. The next night, they regrouped in an abandoned farmhouse near the state line. Evelyn spread a map on the table. Wallace is holding a closed-door meeting tomorrow at the new Bureau headquarters in D.C., she said. If we can intercept his internal network feed during the meeting, we can force his confession live. Thomas sighed. That's suicide. Maybe, she said quietly, but it's the only way. Noah loaded his pistol. Then we're not dying quietly. Maya touched the drives. We'll need access to the Bureau's satellite relay. Evelyn nodded. And I know exactly where to find it. They drove through the night toward Washington, the road slick with rain, headlights cutting through fog. The city rose in the distance, glittering, indifferent. Inside a nondescript office complex at the edge of Arlington sat the Bureau's relay station, a web of servers that connected every state division. Evelyn parked in the shadows. Once we breach the server, we upload Wallace's files. His own data will expose him. Noah checked his weapon. We get one shot at this. Thomas smiled faintly. Then let's make it count. They slipped inside, bypassing security through Evelyn's old clearance codes. The corridors were silent. The hum of servers echoed like distant thunder. At the core terminal, Maya inserted the dual drives. Uploading. The progress bar climbed. 20%. 50. 70. Then the screen flashed red. Access granted. Welcome back, Agent Shaw. Evelyn froze. The system wasn't rejecting her. It was welcoming her. Thomas turned slowly. What does that mean? She whispered, horrified. It means I was never locked out. Noah frowned. Evelyn, what are you saying? I'm saying Wallace didn't betray me. I built the system with him. The room fell silent. Maya's eyes widened. You created the Bureau? Evelyn's voice trembled. I built it to protect integrity. But they twisted it. They used my framework, my access, my codes. Noah whispered, You're the key. Suddenly, the intercom crackled. Wallace's voice filled the room. Welcome home, Evelyn. I knew you'd come. Lights flickered on, revealing armed agents surrounding the corridor. Wallace's figure appeared on the monitor, smiling calmly. You could have retired quietly, he said. But instead, you made yourself a story. Evelyn's jaw tightened. I'm taking it all down. Wallace chuckled. You can try. But the Bureau isn't a system anymore. It's an idea. And ideas can't die. Then the monitor flickered, showing live feeds of Noah, Maya, and Thomas with red target markers over their faces. Wallace's smile widened. Your friends, however, can... He snapped his fingers off-screen. The sound of approaching boots echoed through the hallway. Thomas yelled, Run! Evelyn grabbed the drives, slammed the emergency door control, sealing Noah and Maya out of the core chamber. Maya pounded on the glass. Evelyn, what are you doing? Evelyn looked at her, eyes wet but resolute. Finishing what I started. The last thing they saw was Evelyn inserting both drives into the console as alarms blared. The screen filling with cascading code and a single message flashing in white. System override initiated. Then, a blinding flash. The explosion wasn't fire, it was data. A surge of blinding white filled the Bureau's underground relay chamber, rippling through every screen in the building. Then silence. When Noah and Maya forced their way back inside, smoke poured from the servers. The smell of burned plastic and ozone hung thick in the air. Evelyn was gone. No body. No trace. Only her badge half melted, lying on the floor beside the console. Maya's voice broke. She did it. Noah looked at the screens. Across every monitor, lines of code continued to spread like wildfire. System override complete. Transmitting archive blue watch. Somewhere far above them, satellites were waking up. The truth was already leaving the building. By dawn, the Integrity Bureau servers were offline. Every device connected to its network began dumping encrypted data into public channels. Dark web forums, journalist inboxes, independent watchdog feeds. The leaks hit faster than anyone could contain them. Financial ledgers linking Ridgeline to campaign donations. Audio files of high-ranking officers discussing cleanup operations. Video evidence of unlawful detentions, staged raids, fabricated reports. The story Evelyn died for was now everywhere. Cable news anchors stuttered through headlines they didn't understand. Politicians called emergency press conferences. The Department of Justice launched an inquiry so large it spanned 4 states. And in the middle of it all, 3 fugitives disappeared into the chaos. 2 weeks later, a safe house outside Baltimore. Rain against tin roof. 3 voices in the dark. Thomas Reyes sat by the window, bandage still on his arm, watching the road. Maya typed on a burner laptop, following the wave of leaked data spreading through the internet. Noah paced, unable to rest. They're calling her a traitor on some channels, he said. Others are calling her a hero. Thomas nodded slowly. That's how truth always starts, divided. Maya looked up from the screen. Half the country thinks she's dead. Half think she's alive and hiding with the files. Noah stopped pacing. Maybe she is. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small memory card. One he'd found taped to the underside of the car's dashboard after the escape. On it was a single video file, time-stamped 30 minutes before the explosion. He inserted it into Maya's laptop. Evelyn's face appeared on screen, calm, pale, backlit by the glow of the server room. If you're seeing this, it means the truth is out. I did what had to be done. Don't look for me. Just finish what we started. Remember, justice isn't a badge. It's a choice we make every day. The screen went black. Maya covered her mouth, tears streaming. She knew she wasn't coming back. Noah nodded. She didn't want us to be her rescue. She wanted us to be her echo. Weeks passed. Public outrage grew. Congress announced hearings into the Integrity Bureau. Wallace, once untouchable, was now the most wanted man in Washington. Every day brought new footage. Secret recordings, emails, dash cams, signed orders. Each one worse than the last. One clip caught the nation's attention. A video of Captain Baines confessing on his deathbed, admitting he took money to bury complaints and frame officers. He ended with, "We thought we were protecting the badge. Turns out we were just protecting ourselves." For every honest cop the country had ever believed in, the betrayal cut deep. But it also sparked something else, a reckoning. One night, as Noah reviewed the latest data dump, his phone vibrated. Unknown number. A text. "We need to talk, W." Against his better judgment, he went alone. An abandoned parking garage. Midnight. Wind howling through broken windows. Wallace stepped from the shadows, older than his photos, calm, unarmed. No bodyguards. Noah asked, "I'm not here to kill you," Wallace said. "I want to survive this too." Noah kept his hand on his gun. "Then talk." Wallace exhaled. "She won, you know. Evelyn Shaw. Everything she built. Everything I twisted. It's coming apart. But there's something you don't understand." He handed Noah a small USB drive. Inside this are names of every politician who approved the Bureau's expansion, every judge who signed its funding, every bank that laundered its money. You expose them and you'll burn the country down. Noah gritted his teeth. "Then maybe it needs to burn." Wallace smirked. "That's what she used to say." A shot rang out. Wallace stumbled, a red blossom blooming across his chest. From the shadows, Maya, holding a smoking gun. "He was never going to help us," she said, voice shaking. Wallace collapsed, laughing through blood. "You think it's over?" There are more of me than you can count." He died smiling. Back at the safe house, Thomas looked at the USB drive. "This is too big to leak all at once. We need to verify it." Noah shook his head. "If we wait, they'll erase it." Maya plugged it in. Her screen filled with names, senators, corporate donors, media executives, all tied to the Integrity Bureau funding chain. She hit upload. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the internet lit up again, this time not with anger, but with clarity. The final piece of Evelyn Shaw's puzzle was complete. And for the first time in years, the public saw every part of the machine, from the bottom patrol car to the top office in D.C. Months later, a Senate inquiry filled every television screen in America. Reporters called it the integrity crisis. Noah and Maya sat in the audience under new identities, watching as officials testified under oath about a program they had once called reform. Thomas Reyes was granted limited immunity for his role as a whistleblower. His testimony was simple. "We built a machine to measure truth, but truth doesn't belong to machines. It belongs to people brave enough to speak it." When he finished, the room was silent. For the first time in years, Noah felt the air shift, as if justice, however fragile, was breathing again. After the hearings, they returned to Millersburg. The town was quiet now, the diner rebuilt, the community trying to move on. Beside the creek where Evelyn's car had once been found, they placed a simple stone. Evelyn Shaw, 1958 to 2025. Truth never dies. Maya placed her silver charm bracelet on the stone. It glinted in the morning light. "She believed in something bigger than any of us," she whispered. Noah nodded, "And she made us believe too." A soft breeze rippled through the trees, and for a moment, they swore they heard her voice again, calm and unshaken. "Write it down. Someone has to remember." 6 months later, a rainy evening in a small town in Maine, a waitress at a coastal diner set a cup of coffee on the counter for a quiet woman in a gray coat. The woman smiled, her hand scarred but steady. "Careful," the waitress said lightly. "It's hot." The woman looked up with a small, knowing smile. "I've had worse." She opened a newspaper headline, "Final Arrests Made in Integrity Bureau Case." A faint glow of peace crossed her face as she took a sip of coffee and watched the rain. No name, no badge, just a woman at a window, free at last. Months later, a new training manual for cadets circulated across police academies nationwide. On the first page was a quote attributed to Evelyn Shaw. "Power tests integrity the way fire tests steel. Only the strongest don't bend." And below it, a question written in bold. "When no one is watching, who are you serving?" For every officer who read it, some looked away in discomfort. Others read it twice, and maybe, just maybe, remember the story of the elder woman who wouldn't stay silent. In a world where truth is edited and power rewrites itself, one woman reminded us that justice isn't about winning. It's about refusing to surrender. Evelyn Shaw didn't fight for glory or revenge. She fought because silence was easier, and she knew easy is where evil grows. So, dear viewers, when the next injustice passes quietly before you, will you look away? Or will you speak, even if your voice shakes?